Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to unlock a beautiful piece of ancient Korean wisdom. It's hidden inside a poem that for centuries has offered this incredible guide to living a meaningful life, especially when things get tough.
Now, when you first look at this poem, A Winter Day in a Poorhouse, by a poet named Baek Won-hang, it might seem a little complex. But trust me, because hidden within these characters is a profound secret about finding warmth and human connection in the absolute coldest of times.
So how do we get to that secret? Well, the best way to do it is to just dive right in and break this poem down line by line, character by character. And the very first line, wow, it sets an incredibly stark and vivid scene right from the get-go. These 6 characters, what we call hanja in Korean, and that's how we'll be pronouncing them, they aren't just words on a page. Think of them more like brushstrokes, painting this really powerful picture of hardship and cold. Let's take a closer look.
Okay, so here you can see how it all fits together, like building blocks. You've got pa, which means broken, and ak for house, a broken house. Then you have susu, which is actually the sound of the wind whistling. You can almost hear it, right? And finally, sin, firewood, followed by yokjol, which means it's about to be cut off, about to run out.
You see, the poet isn't just telling us he's poor. He's making us feel it. We can hear that wind whistling through the cracks. We can see the broken walls, and you can feel that deep-seated anxiety of watching your very last source of heat just disappear. It's a scene of total physical vulnerability.
Okay, so let's move on to the next line, because this is where the poem takes a really fascinating turn. Instead of giving in to despair, which you might expect, the poet introduces a hero.
And what the poet does here is just brilliant. He compares his own really difficult situation to a famous historical figure, basically holding him up as a role model for how you should act with integrity, even when you're facing the absolute worst.
So the 2 keys to unlocking this line are right at the beginning. First, Won-rang, which is a reference to a historical figure named Won-on. And then you have this really interesting phrase, gowa. Now literally, it means to lie down comfortably, but it has a much deeper meaning. It's about living with a kind of noble integrity, detached from all the worldly worries.
This line might seem pretty straightforward, right? But for anyone at the time who knew the classics, this was a huge reference to a really famous and inspiring story about this man, Won-an. And understanding his story, well, that is the key to the poem's entire moral code. So the story goes that during the Han Dynasty in ancient China, this once-in-a-generation snowstorm hits and just buries the entire capital city. So the local magistrate, worried about his people, goes out to check on everyone. He's going door to door, and he finds Won-on's house is completely blocked by this mountain of snow. He fears the worst, thinking the man must be dead. So his men frantically start digging. They break in, and they find Won-on just lying there. He's freezing, starving, but he's perfectly calm. The magistrate is just stunned and asks him, "Why didn't you come out for help?" Just take a second to really let that sink in. He would rather freeze to death than be a burden on his community, because he knows that everyone else is suffering too. I mean, this is such a profound act of consideration, of benevolence. It's a core value in Confucian thought called in, or humaneness.
And that is exactly where our poet's head is at. He's saying, yeah, my house is broken. Yeah, my fire is dying out. But just like Won-on, I will not complain. I'm not going to be a burden on others. I'm going to hold on to this higher principle of moral integrity. It's just this incredible declaration of inner strength.
And now, the poem makes this masterful pivot. After establishing his physical poverty but his moral wealth, the poet creates this powerful, powerful contrast between the glittering world outside and the simple yet incredibly rich world that he has inside his own broken home.
So let's quickly decode the last few phrases here that set up this amazing comparison. You've got Gangnam, which literally means south of the river, a famously wealthy and warm region, and then set against that you have Cheoja, meaning wife and children, and Wiro, to surround the hearth. This slide, right here, is the absolute heart of the entire poem. It just lays out the 2 worlds side by side. On one side, you have all the material abundance of Gangnam, the warm land, successful farms, just wealth. And on the other, you have the poet's world, a tiny fire and his small family. But listen to what they have. They are talking deep into the night.
So what is it? What's the ultimate treasure that the poet has found inside his cold, broken-down house? What is this inner warmth he has?
that makes all the material warmth of Gangnam seem totally irrelevant.
You see, the poet isn't jealous of Gangnam's warmth because he has found something different, something so much more meaningful. He has the warmth of family, of love, of sharing stories. He's found true richness, not in what he possesses, but in who he is with.
And so this one short poem becomes this incredibly practical guide to these deep universal virtues. Virtues like soyok, which is about finding contentment with very little, and jijok, knowing what is enough. Just like Won-an, he practices pai-reo, which is consideration for others. And with his family, he finds gratitude, gamza, which leads to true inner peace, or pyongon.
And just like that, the poem comes full circle. It starts in this place of freezing hardship, a broken house where the firewood is literally running out, and it ends by transforming that exact same space into a place of profound warmth, connection, and love.
So this ancient poem leaves us with a very, very modern question. In a world that is so often telling us that material wealth is everything, it asks us to stop and look for our own source of true warmth. What is the hearth that we can gather around to connect and find what really, truly matters?